In a narrow, deserted alley, a short man walked slowly, step by step. This man, named Chien, was a notorious gambler and loan shark in the area. Everyone knew his name. When Chien was out on the street late at night like today, it was usually because he was down on his luck. His scooter, which had been perfectly fine, suddenly choked and died. No matter how many times he kicked the starter, it wouldn't turn on. He pulled it to a garage, but it was already closed. He pulled out his phone, called one of the two numbers printed on the old sign, and waited. But when the two mechanics arrived and checked the bike, they were stumped. Chien had to leave the bike at the shop because they couldn't figure out why it wouldn't start. Frustrated, Chien pulled some 200,000 V&D bills from his pocket and practically barked at the mechanic. "Here, fix my bike. I'm leaving. If there's money left over when you're done, keep it for drinks, I'll treat you. If it's not enough, let me know, I'll send more." The two mechanics were no strangers to Chien. They were annoyed by his tone but still smiled and took the money, cheerfully escorting Chien out to the street. "Thank you very much, Mr. Chien. Just leave the bike with us, we'll fix it. We'll call you as soon as it's done." Chien nodded curtly. "All right, get in there and fix my bike as fast as you can. I have a date tomorrow afternoon, I can't postpone it, understand? Don't worry, sir, we'll fix your bike as quickly as possible." "Okay then." Without another word, Chien started walking home from the garage. The road was dark, and every now and then he heard faint laughter and chatter from somewhere. But Chien thought it was just coming from some house, nothing conscious around him. Yet, as he got closer to his house, the laughter grew clearer, closer, until it was replaced by angry, furious shouts. At this moment, Chien froze in fear. He trembled, turning his head to look behind him. Less than 5 meters away, there were a dozen people, old and young, men and women, staring at him with bloodshot eyes full of resentment. Chien screamed, turning to run, but suddenly his legs felt impossibly heavy. He wanted to run, but he couldn't. He looked down at his sweat-drenched face, now drained of all color. At his feet were two small children, their tiny, ice-cold hands grasping his legs with unbelievable strength, pulling Chien's feet. Chien couldn't take it anymore. He let out a shriek of horror and woke up with a start. Chien's parents had died when he was very young. He was taken in by his paternal uncle's family, but as he grew older, Chien became increasingly difficult and rebellious. Many times, he caused trouble, making his uncle's family unable to bear it, even considering sending him to an orphanage. Hearing this, Chien ran away and became a delinquent. Chien was first arrested at 19 during a raid on a gambling den, part of a district police sweep. After serving his sentence, Chien didn't change his ways. Whenever he saw a large gambling den, he'd dive in like a moth to a flame. The people Chien saw tonight were all those he had wronged, now haunting him for revenge. The incident Chien orchestrated with his subordinates happened more than 3 years ago. 3 years ago. "Boss, here you go." One of Chien's subordinates placed an uncorked beer bottle in front of him. Chien took a swig, then slammed it on the table. "Damn it, this is annoying. I can't believe I can't get this son of a bitch's family." The son of a bitch Chien referred to was the family of Mr. Kwong, one of Chien's debtors. Besides gambling, Chien had connections with several gangs since his release from prison, engaging in usury that he had learned in jail and through introductions from some big brothers there. Though small in stature, Chien carried a ruthless streak that struck fear into many. A month ago, Mr. Kwong's business had hit a dead end. A friend introduced him to Chien, hoping to borrow a large sum to turn his fortunes around. That day, Chien was asleep with his young mistress when a knock on the door disturbed him. He sat up, yelling, "Who's there? Is it past bedtime or something? You're interrupting my rest, huh?" The person outside spoke softly. "Brother Chien, it's Tuan. I brought a friend who needs your help with something." Chien gestured for his mistress to get dressed and leave. Tuan came in and opened the door, sizing up the two men outside before nodding and telling them to come in. "So, what business brings you here, Tuan?" Tuan replied. "Well, Brother Chien, my friend Kwong here, his business has been losing money. He's in a difficult spot now and hopes you can lend him a sum of money to restart his business. Don't worry, brother, we're trustworthy. We wouldn't dare cause you any trouble." Chien stood up, went to the fridge, grabbed a few beers, and placed them on the table. "Lending money isn't hard, but my interest rate is high. Very high. I lend at 15% interest. If you agree, I'll lend it. Otherwise, I can't help you." Mr. Kwong heard Chien's terms, which were far higher than anywhere else, and swallowed, dismayed. He was about to refuse, but Chien stopped him, giving him a knowing look. All right, Brother Chien, as long as we can solve this problem, we're very grateful for your help. Chien popped open the beers and handed one to each man. Okay, it's settled then. Now you two drink up, finish this beer, and I'll go get the money for him. Immediately. But there's one condition. Chien asked, What condition, Brother Chien? Chien said, Honestly, I don't trust your friend much, so you sign as the borrower. That way, I'll feel more at ease. After they finished their beers, Chien went inside to get the money and handed it to Chien. After leaving Chien's house, Mr. Kwong looked at the money in his shoulder bag and sighed in despair, telling his friend, I'm afraid borrowing money from that Chien guy this time was a mistake. His interest rate is too high. The other places I checked before coming here were only 6 or 7,000 per million. This is 15,000 per million. Why didn't you let me refuse? Now I'm stuck with this huge debt. Chien smiled and said, It's for business, not for spending, brother. It's for investments, so don't worry about the immediate future. Just take this money, solve your problems, and then we'll figure out the rest. Besides, I'm the one who signed for the loan, so you don't have to worry. Who would know I borrowed money from him? Mr. Kwong nodded, agreeing that Chien had a point. Now, his top priority was solving his immediate problems. As for the debt with Chien, he would deal with it later, or wait for Chien to come after him when the time was right. 2 months after lending money to Mr. Kwong, one stormy evening, Chien was eating with some of his subordinates at home when one of them burst in, frantically delivering shocking news that made Chien drop his chopsticks in astonishment. Boss, Chien, the guy who guaranteed the loan for Mr. Kwong, he's dead. Chien's jaw dropped. He was speechless. He leaned back in his chair, staring blankly at the ceiling, lost in thought. That day, when lending money to Mr. Kwong, Chien had made Chien sign the loan agreement as the borrower to be safe. Now, Chien was suddenly dead. Mr. Kwong, of course, was free from any obligation regarding the debt, which was on paper between Chien and Chien. Brother Chien, what are we going to do now? Why didn't you make Mr. Kwong sign the debt paper too back then? Why only Chien? Damn it, how was I supposed to know Chien was going to die so soon? If I had known he was going to die, I would have made Kwong sign it. Damn it, I messed up. Man proposes, God disposes. Indeed, just as Mr. Kwong had anticipated, after Chien's funeral, Chien and 2 of his subordinates went to Mr. Kwong's office to confront him. Chien sat down and immediately got to the point. Mr. Kwong, we both know that day you came to borrow money from me, I had Chien sign the debt paper to ensure the money's return. Now that he's dead, I hope you'll still honor your promise to pay me back that money. Mr. Kwong chuckled lightly. Brother Chien, what you're saying isn't right. That day, I said I would sign the debt paper, but you said I wasn't trustworthy and made Chien sign it instead. If I didn't pay, Chien would be responsible. Now Chien is the one who borrowed money from you. I just borrowed money from him, not from you. You understand, right? Chien's blood boiled. He felt like the biggest fool among fools. He swallowed his rage and said, So, are you going to pay the money or not? Of course, if you borrow, you must pay back, but I'm not paying you, I'm paying Chien. Are you messing with me? Chien's dead, who are you going to pay it back to? Mr. Kwong pushed a glass of water towards Chien and calmly said, Brother, don't worry. Chien just died, the grass hasn't even grown over his grave yet. I will definitely arrange to pay his wife. You just need to go to Chien's house, meet his wife, and collect the money. It's that simple. What about the interest? The interest? I don't know anything about that. When Chien was alive, I paid him the interest. But I owed him money, so I paid him interest. Now that he's dead, what interest are we talking about? I will pay the principal to Chien's wife. You can go there and collect the principal. Are you going to collect money from a dead man, Brother Chien? Chien was speechless. He never imagined that his mistake would lead to such a dead end. So Chien died, and Chien only got back the principal, while the interest was completely lost. Chien swallowed his anger. So when will I get the principal back? Mr. Kwong confidently replied. Don't worry, Brother Chien. On the day of my appointment with Chien, I will bring enough money to pay his wife. She will then call you to let you know. Chien felt relieved and left. The more he thought, the more he realized that the cleverest schemes often led to the most painful outcomes. He never expected to be in such an impossible situation. One of the 3 subordinates following Chien spoke up to console him. Boss, that guy said that just to avoid paying. It was a mistake not to make Mr. Kwong sign the loan agreement that day. Now he's just flipping the script. Chien slapped his forehead forcefully and said, annoyed, This is truly my fault. Damn it, once I get the principal back, I'm going to teach that Kwang a lesson he'll never forget for daring to betray me. Chien waited anxiously for the day Miss Thoa, Tuan's wife, would call him to come collect the principal. Even though he was annoyed about losing a large amount of interest over a long period, Chien maintained a calm demeanor in front of the woman. After receiving the money from Miss Thoa, Chien said, "Tuan is gone now. Consider the interest on this debt forgiven for the sake of our long friendship. He's no longer with us. If you ever have any difficulties in the future, just come to Chien. For Tuan's sake, I'll lend you money without any interest." After saying that, he took the money and stood up to leave. As he reached the door, he stopped dead in his tracks and said to his two subordinates, "Damn that dog Kwang. If I don't deal with him, I'm not Chien anymore." Chien conceived a plan specifically for Kwang in his mind. Not only Mr. Kwang himself, but his entire family would suffer the consequences. In Chien's mind, he wanted Mr. Kwang's whole family to pay the price for his betrayal. One evening, Chien was sitting in a private room at a karaoke bar he frequented. One of his trusted subordinates entered the room and whispered something into Chien's ear. "Boss, everything is ready, just waiting for your order." Chien nodded, then reached out and said something to the pretty young girl, about 18, sitting next to him. He then slipped a 500,000 VND bill into her cleavage. Seeing this, the girl smiled brightly and stood up, leaving the room. The other girls, who had also received money, also stood up and left. In the room now, only Chien and his two subordinates remained. Chien slammed his fist on the table, annoyed. "Damn it, this time we have to act fast and decisively. Leave absolutely no trace behind. Don't worry, brother, when we act it's always perfect. Just wait for good news." Chien nodded, tossed each of them a stack of 500,000 VND bills and said, "Once the job is done, you two immediately go to Cambodia. Kwang over there will pick you up and arrange your food and lodging." The two subordinates, overjoyed after receiving Chien's money, put the money away and left the karaoke bar with Chien to go home. The young girl who had been sitting next to Chien earlier had just been dropped off by a motorbike taxi driver at her destination. As the driver took her money, he looked at her with pity. He was about to say something, but seeing Chien looking at him, he sighed and sped off. Chien opened the door, pulling the young girl into his house. The heavy steel door clanged shut. The two subordinates saw this, exchanged knowing glances, and left. They returned to their rented room, picked up 2 pistols, and drove towards Mr. Kwang's house. About 10 meters from Mr. Kwang's house, the unlicensed motorbike stopped. They observed the deserted street. The timing was perfect. Each man donned a hat and a mask, carrying a gun, and pressed the doorbell. Inside the house, Mr. Kwang's housekeeper was cleaning when she stopped. Mr. Kwang, a shadowy figure absorbed in reading a book, turned to his housekeeper and said, "Go outside and see who it is. If they ask for my husband, tell them he's asleep. If there's anything else, come back and tell me." "Yes, madam." The housekeeper went to open the door. As the door swung open, the man with the hat immediately aimed his gun at the housekeeper's face, terrifying her. "Shut up, don't say a word or I'll blow your brains out." The housekeeper was so scared that tears streamed down her face. She nodded. Before she could say anything, the man with the gun continued, "Go back to your hometown. From now on, if the police or anyone asks, say you don't know anything. If you rat us out, we'll come back and wipe out your whole family." The housekeeper trembled, pleading, "Please, don't hurt my employer and her children. My employer is a good person and the 2 children are innocent. Keep talking and I'll blow your brains out." The housekeeper's face turned pale. She ran towards the main road where a motorbike taxi driver was waiting for customers that night. When she reached him, she hurriedly handed him money, telling him to take her to the bus station. Amidst his confused gaze, gunshots rang out, followed by the sound of motorbikes speeding away. Neighbors turned on their lights and opened their doors, but by then, the 2 killers had already fled. The police, alerted by residents, arrived at the scene. Mr. Kwang's entire family had been killed. No one survived. Back home, Chien was enjoying himself with his mistress. As he lay next to her, almost dozing off, his phone rang. He didn't answer but gestured with his eyes for the girl to pick it up. "Hello, who is this? Brother Chien just came back and is very drunk, so he's sleeping. If he wakes up, what should I tell him?" "Yes, I'll let him know." The girl hung up and put the phone back. Chien asked, "Who called? Is there something wrong, honey?" It was Brother Trung. "He called to tell you that both Hieu and Engia in Cambodia are dead." "What? Dead? How?" Brother Trung said his contacts there reported that both of them committed suicide. Suicide, both of them? Yes, Brother Trung said so. Chien jumped up, told the girl to leave the room, then frantically called his subordinate Trung. Trung, they committed suicide? How? I gave them plenty of money, and I have people over there taking care of them from A to Z. Why would they commit suicide? You need to go there, investigate thoroughly. I feel like there's something wrong with their deaths. Don't worry, brother, I'll book a ticket and go immediately. I'll let you know if I find anything. Hanging up, Chien muttered, "Damn it, how strange. Why would they commit suicide for no reason? It's really hard to understand." A week later, Trung, the subordinate sent to Cambodia to investigate the suicide of the two hitmen, returned. "So, what happened, brother?" "Let me tell you, brother. Before the two of them committed suicide, they went to find an old sorcerer in Cambodia to perform some kind of exorcism. I'm not sure what it was about, but in the end, whether the evil spirits were driven away or not, the two of them became completely mad. Our guys over there said that they kept seeing things. Damn it. They must have killed too many people this time, and it scared them to death. All right, you can go now. I have something important for you to do." After hanging up, Chien sat deep in thought, staring at the overgrown yard in front of him. The death of his trusted subordinates in Cambodia seemed abnormal. There had to be some mystery he didn't know about. A sorcerer? Those two had never been superstitious before. Why suddenly deal with ghosts and demons? 3 days later, Chien and several subordinates were sitting in a small house on the outskirts of Hanoi. Chien had bought this house with the intention of settling down there someday. They sat in a circle around a table laden with delicious food. "Today, I've gathered you all here to discuss the deaths of Hieu and Engia. I fear they didn't commit suicide, but were murdered." "No way, brother. The Cambodian police investigated the scene very carefully. They couldn't have been murdered. Hieu clearly committed suicide. He used a knife to slash his stomach, his intestines spilling out as he knelt and bowed to the ground. Engia hanged himself, his eyes bulging out." Chien listened in silence. If they weren't murdered, it could only be suicide. But they had fled to another country, with no worries, a decent place to live. Why would they commit suicide? Chien had never seen such a thing in his life. Suddenly, a thought popped into Chien's head. Could it be Mr. Kwang's family returning to haunt them, scaring them into suicide? He raised a hand and asked his subordinates, "Do you think they were scared to death by ghosts and committed suicide?" The group fell silent, looking at each other. Chien, who had never feared anything, was now afraid of ghosts. Seeing their silence, Chien continued, "I'm sure Hieu and Engia were so scared they committed suicide. Those two weren't easily frightened. I believe only ghosts could have scared them so much that they peed their pants. That's why, before they died, both of them went to find a sorcerer. So when will their bodies be transported back home? Soon, I guess. My people over there will arrange the transfer as soon as the Cambodian police release the bodies." Chien finished his drink, then sighed. Indeed. Throughout my life, those two were my most loyal subordinates. Now that they're dead, I truly feel I've wronged them. Chien drank until he was half drunk. His subordinates helped him into a car and drove him back to Hanoi. Chien woke up in the middle of the night. He heard sounds downstairs. "Who's there?" he called out loudly, but there was no reply. His head was still throbbing. After a moment, he got up and opened his bedroom door. It was so dark outside that Chien couldn't see anything. He had to use his hands to feel his way. At this moment, Chien bumped into someone standing so close that another step would have put him right into that person. "Than, Fong, is that you?" But the person stood silent. Suddenly, a voice spoke, startling Chien. "I am Kwang. Do you remember how you killed my entire family?" From that night on, after encountering Kwang's ghost, Chien was clearly terrified. His subordinates were all very worried about him. They urged him to rest and regain his composure. Chien took their advice and moved to his hometown house, hoping to return to normal. But it wasn't as he thought. No matter where he lived, the spirits of Kwang and his family always haunted Chien, never leaving him. Chien couldn't even work anymore. He handed over all his business to his subordinates. But unfortunately, during several police crackdowns, Chien's subordinates were gradually arrested. Chien's business, built over many years, crumbled. Now, Chien only had a house in the city and the house he was currently staying in. "What do we do, brother? Let's disband. Don't contact me anymore," a subordinate said regretfully, but Chien hung up. He no longer had the mental capacity to think about his subordinates. He didn't even care about converting his illegally acquired assets. What Chien cared about now was finding a way to prevent the spirits of Kwang's family from haunting him. 4 years passed since the Mr. Kwong family murder case, which the police could not solve, unable to find the perpetrators. Chien had still not been arrested because the murderers, his 2 subordinates, had already passed away. Then, one night, on his way home, he saw Kwong and his family again, haunting him so intensely that he fainted. When Chien regained consciousness, he found himself lying in a hospital bed. Mr. Bin, his neighbor, had rushed him to the emergency room. Seeing Chien awake, Mr. Bin asked, "Are you too tired, son, that you fainted on your way home? You're lucky you ran into me. Otherwise, you would have met your ancestors sooner." Chien sat up, his hands trembling as he clutched Mr. Bin's shirt, pleading for help. He stammered, "Mr. Bin, I'm so scared. I saw a ghost, Mr. Bin, I saw a ghost." "All right, calm down. Where are you seeing ghosts? There are no ghosts in this room." Chien gradually calmed down. He looked around the hospital room, his gaze settling on Mr. Bin's kind face. "Thank you, Mr. Bin, for everything." Mr. Bin then handed Chien a bottle of water and said, "I don't know much about your past, but what you're experiencing today is the consequence of what you did in the past. In my opinion, you should calm down and think about what wrongdoings you committed in the past. Only then can you return to normal. I hope you will listen to my advice." After hearing Mr. Bin's words, Chien sat in a daze, unable to say anything more. Mr. Bin sighed in silence, then turned and left the room. Chien was left alone in the room, next to another patient who was sleeping with his back to Chien. As Chien watched, the other person suddenly turned his face, and Chien saw that it was Mr. Kwong, the one Chien and his subordinates had killed. Chien shrieked and rushed out of the hospital room, bumping into nurses and doctors outside. Chien was in a state of panic. They restrained Chien on the hospital bed and gave him a sedative. Only then did Chien gradually calm down and fall into a deep sleep, thanks to the medication. That afternoon, Mr. Bin returned to the hospital to visit Chien. He found him still asleep. The doctor called Mr. Bin aside to discuss Chien's condition, asking him to inform Chien's family to complete the admission procedures. Mr. Bin told the male doctor, "Chien has no relatives, doctor. Can I register him for admission? I'm his neighbor." The doctor looked at Mr. Bin and nodded. Mr. Bin stood up, thanked him, and left for the admissions office. After completing the admission procedures and paying Chien's hospital fees, he returned to the room and saw Chien awake. He was looking at the male patient in the next bed with terrified eyes. The male patient, feeling uncomfortable with Chien's gaze, got out of bed and left the room. Mr. Bin sat down on the empty bed next to Chien's and began to speak to Chien. "Chien, I've just completed the procedures and paid your hospital fees. You can rest assured and stay here for treatment until you recover, then go home." "Thank you, Uncle. When I'm discharged, I will definitely repay the hospital fees. The money isn't important. What's important is for you to recover. After all, you're my neighbor, like family to me. You've helped me a lot, so repaying you is simply what I should do." During Chien's stay in the hospital, Mr. Bin was the one who visited and cared for him most often, until the day he was discharged. On the day of his discharge, Chien called Mr. Bin, telling him not to come as he could return home by himself. Back home, Chien's house was now like a pigsty. Belongings were scattered everywhere, cobwebs covered every corner, and thick dust lay on the altar, which hadn't seen incense in a long time, adding to the gloomy atmosphere of Chien's house. When Mr. Bin came to Chien's house, he saw Chien sitting on a chair, looking lost. Seeing this, Mr. Bin asked, "How do you feel, son?" "I'm fine now, Uncle. Thank you for taking care of me during my stay at the hospital." Chien then got up, opened a cupboard, took out a stack of money he had managed to save, returned to the table, and pushed half of the money towards Mr. Bin. "Please accept this, Uncle." Mr. Bin only took half of the money Chien offered, returning the rest to him. "Don't gamble anymore, son. You'll gain a little, but lose a lot. This money isn't a small amount. Use it for honest business. Rebuild your life before it's too late." Chien nodded, his voice filled with genuine remorse. "I know, Uncle. This time, I will definitely quit gambling and fix all the mistakes of my past." Mr. Bin nodded. "I hope you can do it, son. You should also burn incense for your parents regularly. You can't leave their altar cold like that." Chien nodded, stood on a tall chair, and took down his parents' portrait along with the incense burner. After cleaning the altar, Chien placed his parents' portrait back in its original position, lit incense, and felt a wave of guilt wash over him. Since he returned to his uncle's house to retrieve his parents' portrait, he had neglected to burn incense for them. As he clasped his hands in prayer before the altar, Chien flinched when he saw his parents' eyes in the portrait looking at him with resentment. Chien quickly rubbed his eyes, but now he saw nothing. Mr. Bin, seeing Chien's strange behavior, asked, "What's wrong, son? Why do you look so troubled?" "I looked at my parents' portrait, and they were looking at me with angry eyes, uncle." Parents are always the ones who love their children the most. So you must believe that no matter what wrongdoings you commit, your parents will always forgive you and bless you. I understand. Thank you, uncle, for always being there for me and comforting me. Just then, Mr. Bin's daughter came to call him. "Dad, there's a guest." Mr. Bin stood up and told Chien, "Think carefully about what's to come. I believe you can walk this path. Remember my words. No matter what, you must burn incense and ask your parents for protection. Only then can you find peace." On the way home, Mr. Bin's daughter, Thoa, asked him, "Dad, why do you always stick around that Chien guy? He's a bad person. Everyone knows about his dark past. You should avoid him, not get involved with him." Hearing his daughter, Mr. Bin sighed. "Don't talk like that, Thoa. Whatever people say about Chien, I believe he will change for the better this time. I believe it. But I don't believe that man will ever change for the better. Watch, Dad. If you keep being close to him, he'll take all the money in our house to gamble it away." Chien went to the market, bought food, arranged it on the altar, and lit incense. He believed that seeing his parents' angry eyes in the portrait was real, not just his imagination. Chien knew he regretted his past actions. That year, sending 2 subordinates to brutally murder Mr. Kwang's family led to him being haunted by those resentful spirits now. Every night, Chien dreamed of Mr. Kwang and his family appearing, standing around him, wanting to scream but unable to. He lay stiff in bed like a corpse, until morning when he would return to normal. On a peaceful day, Chien went to visit his parents' graves in the cemetery. He sat between the 2 graves, talking to his parents for a long time before leaving. This was the last time the villagers saw Chien visit his parents. After visiting his parents' graves, Chien left the village and went to the national highway, looking for a bus to visit Mr. Kwang's family's graves. He was choked with emotion. He paid a relative of Mr. Kwang's family to guide him. The relative reluctantly agreed to the short trip to the graves. However, Mr. Kwang's relative could not have known that the man he was leading to visit the grave of his distant cousin's family was actually the mastermind behind the brutal murder of Mr. Kwang's family. In silence, Chien followed the man deeper into the cemetery. They stopped at a row of 5 graves. Chien stood before the portraits on the headstones, feeling breathless. He imagined the resentful spirits appearing, surrounding him, looking at him with hatred. "You can go first. I want to stay here for a while." "There's no problem, sir. I'll go ahead. You can stay here." After the relative left, Chien knelt, lighting incense and placing it in each grave. He clasped his hands together and whispered, "I am sorry for what I did to you. I know I was wrong. I will change. Please don't haunt me anymore." The eyes in the portraits on the headstones seemed to stare back at Chien, while a dark, ominous aura enveloped the entire cemetery, making Chien feel a chill down his spine. Even though he had prepared himself mentally to stand before the graves of the innocent victims, Chien now knew deep fear. Every time Mr. Kwang and his family appeared, Chien knew he had committed a heinous crime. Even if he successfully concealed it for the rest of his life and escaped earthly justice, he could never escape the judgment of his conscience. Chien clasped his hands in prayer, then turned and left. He returned home with a lighter heart. When Mr. Bin brought food to Chien, he found him in much better spirits. "Where have you been, son? I made a few dishes. Let's eat together." "You're too kind to me, uncle. Please sit down. Let me set the table so we can eat together." Mr. Bin nodded and waited for Chien to prepare. A moment later, Chien returned with a tray of food, a bottle of wine, and 2 glasses. "For a meal like this, we must have wine, uncle. This wine is delicious. I brought it out especially for you to enjoy today." "Then what are we waiting for? Today I'm going to drink my fill." The meal proceeded in a joyful atmosphere. After the meal, both were quite drunk. Mr. Bin stood up to bid Chien farewell. As soon as Mr. Bin left, someone came to Chien's house. This person was one of his former subordinates. Chien, half awake and half drunk, asked, "Why are you here? To visit me? To see how I'm living? Get a glass, let's have a few drinks." His subordinate turned to Chien and said, "It's been too long, hasn't it? How are the others doing?" "Well, brother, the others are just scraping by. They want to follow you and work with you again." "Hey, why? You've followed me all this time, haven't you suffered enough? Why do you want to return to that old path? I don't want to live those days again. You guys have changed, haven't you? No matter what, we've followed you for many years. Are you really going to abandon us now that we're in trouble? Chien sighed, then stood up, went inside, took out all the money hidden in his cupboard, and placed it in front of his subordinate. Take this money and give it to them. Tell them that from now on, I am no longer anyone's boss. You can consider Chien dead. How can you say that, Brother Chien? I won't take this money. You know we only want you, not money. I've decided. Take the money and start a new life. Don't come looking for me anymore. His subordinate, seeing Chien's determination, took the money and stayed at Chien's house for the night, leaving the next morning. The next day, Chien went to visit the graves of his two subordinates, who were supposedly suicides in Cambodia. Everyone thought these two had committed suicide out of guilt, but Chien understood that they had been tormented by vengeful spirits, unlike how Mr. Kwong and his family were haunting him repeatedly. He poured wine into a glass, arranged offerings at the graves, and prayed for a long time before standing up and leaving. After visiting all the graves of his relatives, friends, and even those he had killed, Chien returned home and put his current house up for sale. Mr. Bin's daughter, Thoa, who disliked Chien, even outwardly, was intrigued by his decision to sell the house. One evening, Thoa said to her father, "Dad, Chien is selling his house." "Oh, he wants to sell it. Why are you asking? Are you planning to buy it?" Thoa smiled and replied, "Actually, I don't like Chien at all. But business is business, right, Dad? This property is in an area that's expected to appreciate in value. Dad, please help me ask him about buying it. Just tell him you're interested in buying it, and he'll surely sell it cheaper. Once we buy it, if the land value increases later, we can sell it for a huge profit." Mr. Bin looked at his daughter and shook his head with a wry smile. His daughter was over 30 and still unmarried. He knew she was picky, but if she didn't get married soon, she would surely end up alone. Yielding to his daughter's wishes, Mr. Bin went to see Chien on a drizzly afternoon. The weather that day was cool and pleasant despite the rain. Chien's "for sale" sign had been blown down by the wind and partially soaked, rendering it unusable. Mr. Bin picked up the soaked sign and the garbage, then returned to Chien's doorstep. "Chien, are you home? I need to talk to you about something." Mr. Bin called out several times, but there was no reply from Chien. Not only that, there was an unusual silence. Mr. Bin reached out and unlatched the door. The door swung open. "Chien, what are you doing inside that you can't hear me? Are you still sleeping?" Still no reply. Mr. Bin continued to walk slowly into the house. The lights were not on, so the interior of the house was quite dark. Fumbling in the darkness, Mr. Bin found the light switch on the wall and flicked it on. The house lit up, revealing a horrifying sight. Belongings were strewn everywhere, and on the ceiling there was a lot of blood. It took Mr. Bin 5 minutes to regain his composure. He followed the trail of blood on the floor upstairs. On the second floor, the door to the second room was ajar. Mr. Bin called out, "Chien." He walked inside. In just a few seconds, the sight of Chien's body lying in a pool of blood hit him, terrifying Mr. Bin. The news of Chien's murder created a stir in the neighborhood. The police invited Mr. Bin for questioning to recount the events from when he called at the door until he discovered Chien's body upstairs. The police began to investigate Chien's mysterious death. At the time of Chien's murder, it was raining heavily, so there were few people around, and no one saw any strangers entering Chien's house at that time. Chien's body was released, and Mr. Bin was the one who arranged his funeral. Chien's funeral lasted 2 days. No one came to visit Chien. This surprised no one because when Chien was alive, he was a gang leader with countless subordinates, yet when he died, not a single one appeared. That's how fickle people's hearts truly are. Later, Chien was buried in his hometown. Mr. Bin, along with a few workers, buried Chien next to his parents' graves. Chien had once told Mr. Bin that he wanted to be buried here with his parents, so Mr. Bin knew this fulfilled Chien's last wish to be reunited with his family. One day, Mr. Bin spoke with a police officer involved in the investigation. Mr. Bin said, "When Chien was alive, he was very good to me. I don't care about his past, how he went in and out of jail. I only cared that he promised to quit gambling and stop doing illegal things. I hoped for him. Did you see Chien meet anyone at home? Very rarely. Once, a guy came, claiming to be his subordinate. He told me Chien gave him a lot of money. That guy stayed at Chien's house for one night, then left the next morning. The police officer wrote down Mr. Bin's testimony in his notebook, then paused and asked, I heard Chien was planning to sell his house. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I was planning to ask him about buying his house for my daughter when I discovered he had been murdered. Before you went to his house, I mean, when you were going from your house to Chien's, did you see anyone leaving his house? Mr. Bin seemed to recall something. Oh, I forgot. When I opened Chien's door, I saw two young men speeding past my house on a motorbike. They were coming from Chien's direction. Do you have any clues, officer? The police investigator lowered his head, wrote in his notebook, then looked up again and asked, So there are no clues at all? Thank you for providing the information to assist us. If you have any information about the case, please call the precinct police and let us know. I have to go now, otherwise we'll keep talking to you. No problem, I just hope you can catch the culprit for Chien's sake. Mr. Bin's words made the officer realize that Chien's death was linked to some past crime, but he couldn't imagine how serious the crime Chien had committed was. Day after day, Mr. Bin wanted to help Chien steer towards good, to escape the haunting guilt, hoping Chien would turn himself in to the law to receive clemency. But before he could do that, Chien was murdered by an unknown assailant. Many times, Mr. Bin witnessed Chien screaming in his dreams. Once, in a delirious dream, he vaguely confessed that he was the mastermind of a murder at a restaurant on a busy street. One morning, after Chien's murder, Chien is dead. The man named Tin, who was intently looking at his phone, flinched when his subordinate reported Chien's death. What, did you say Chien is dead? Yes, I didn't mishear. He's dead. Someone killed him in his own house. Tin was silent for a few minutes. Damn it, someone was targeting me, but how? Brother, I don't understand. What does Chien's death have to do with you? Don't you understand? Chien and I were sworn enemies. Now that he's been killed, the police will suspect and investigate me. You and I understand, don't we? This timing is very important. If the police notice us, it's not good. It will ruin all my business. His subordinate heard Tin's words and laughed. You're worrying too much, boss. You and Chien made up a long time ago. You haven't seen him since you met to reconcile over his infringing on your territory. They won't suspect you. Don't worry. Tin frowned, no longer anxious. He clasped his hands and told his subordinate, Chien's death will definitely put me under police suspicion. During this time, be careful with whatever you do. Don't cause me any more trouble. Chien was a ruthless gangster. His death left many gang leaders in the area on edge, including Tin. Indeed, just as Tin feared, among the names on the police's suspect list was Tin, because Chien and Tin had a long-standing feud that lasted for many years until both sides sat down for negotiations, and the situation cooled down. When he was alive, Chien was an aggressive and arrogant person. However, every person has a weakness. Chien was afraid of ghosts, and everyone knew this. For that reason, many of Chien's enemies had thought of pretending to be ghosts to scare him. But it was one thing to say it, another to do it, because scaring someone like Chien was not simple. If successful, that's one thing, but if it failed, the consequences would be severe. On a roadside stall, two men, one old and one young, were talking. I heard Chien is dead. The young man replied, Good riddance, a person like that deserved to die. The old man chuckled. Indeed, he paid for his sins. The young man then asked, But Master Tan, weren't your methods a bit too extreme? He returned to Hanoi to die at Mr. Kwang's family's house, but he only lost his own life. That's a great loss for those he harmed. Quit, the young man replied. That day, when I attacked him, he didn't beg for mercy. He died in silence. If he hadn't harmed Mr. Kwang, he would have been a fine man. Master Tan then sighed. It's karma, my friend. Don't call me master anymore. My ears can't take it. If outsiders hear you, they'll think I'm doing something shady. At this moment, more than a dozen people suddenly appeared, their cold eyes fixed on Tan and Quit. Tan and Quit immediately realized that the people approaching them were plainclothes police officers. Unable to escape, they surrendered and put their hands in cuffs. Quit, the one who directly murdered Chien, was a dangerous individual with a history of convictions. The police had worked hard to track him down. That day, according to Mr. Bin's testimony, one of the two people on the motorbike speeding away from the scene was Quit. In the interrogation room, Quit confessed that he alone was responsible for Chien's murder and that the man he called Master Tan was not involved. Tan was released after it was confirmed he had no connection to Chien's death. Before being escorted away, Quit handed Tan a piece of paper with the following message. Chien deserved to die, but I also committed a sin by killing him. Please help me with one thing. The money in the bank, please withdraw it and take it to my mother in my hometown yourself. The password is not needed, you already know it. Thank you, Uncle Tan. Tan sighed, then took the bank card to an ATM to withdraw money. He brought Quiet's money back to his hometown. Quiet's small family home was in a poor rural village, more than 3 hours from the city. At the entrance to the village, Tan got out of the car and walked into the village. He asked the villagers and found Quiet's house. Quiet's mother, seeing a stranger at the door, hurried over. Who are you looking for? Is this Quiet's house? Yes, it is. Who are you to Quiet? I'm his friend. Quiet is busy with some work in the city and can't come back. He asked me to give you this money. Did he say when he'll be back? He's very busy. Don't worry about the money. He wants you to renovate the house and pay for your medical expenses. I have to go now. I'll come back to visit another time, he said, then left for the highway to wait for a bus. Quiet, a cold-blooded killer, was surprisingly filial to his mother. He considered avenging Mr. Kwong's family to be a meaningful act in his life. However, every crime has its price. Even Tan himself committed a crime. He had caused Chien's 2 hitmen to commit suicide out of fear. The deaths of those 2 killers were also the first time he had used dark magic to harm someone. That, too, was a crime, and the day he had to pay for his crime would also come. If you do evil, you cannot avoid paying the price. Quiet was held in custody, awaiting trial. In his dark cell, he thought back on what he had done and felt guilty that he had not been able to properly care for his mother, who had always loved him and wanted the best for him. The money Quiet asked Tan to give his mother was enough for her to live the rest of her life, but she would feel heartbroken when she received news from the police about her son's death. After receiving the death penalty, Quiet's final court appearance was not attended by Tan. At the end of the trial, after Quiet's sentence was announced, a miracle seemed to happen for Quiet. In his death-filled eyes, there was a glimmer of hope. This truly made Tan happy, because Quiet now had a chance to return. On the death anniversary of Mr. Kwong's family, Tan visited their graves. He lit incense at the graves, which were close to each other. After placing a glass of wine on Mr. Kwong's grave, Tan said, "My friend, we, Quiet and I, have avenged you. You must have helped him escape death, didn't you? I hope this time, when Quiet returns home, he can change and live a normal life as he wishes. As for me, my cancer has reached its final stage, my friend. Perhaps tomorrow I will go down there and meet you soon. Come on, let's drink this glass of wine, my friend." As the rain poured down, Tan stood up, clasped his hands in prayer, then turned and left the cemetery. Afterwards, through the thin veil of rain, Mr. Kwong's family appeared one by one, waving goodbye to Tan, then disappeared. Tan then drove back to his home in Hoa Binh. Day by day, he lived a simple life, growing vegetables, raising chickens, and occasionally fishing for the remainder of his short life. One day, the villagers found Tan dead. They held a funeral for him and buried him in the small plot behind his house. When Quiet was released after serving 17 years in prison, his face was very haggard, marked by wrinkles and age. After so many years outside, the world had changed so much. He returned to his hometown to his elderly mother. Seeing Quiet, she wept tears of joy. Mother and son embraced. After staying with his mother for a month, Quiet set off by bus to Hoa Binh to visit Tan. Upon arrival, Quiet stood silently before the grave in the small garden that Tan had once said he wanted to be buried in when he died. "Quiet, are you going to stay here?" Quiet chuckled. "What are you talking about? You're still healthy. Why talk about dying? I brought good wine. Today, we'll drink until we're drunk." The joyful memories of how he and Tan went to Cambodia to track down Chien's 2 hitmen, who had brutally murdered Mr. Kwong's family, and how step by step they made Chien pay, filled Quiet's mind. But in the end, Tan could not prevent Quiet from killing Chien, an act Quiet believed was justified. Quiet sat down next to Tan's grave and cried like a child. Many times, he had wanted to ask Tan to be his foster father, but he never had the chance. Later, Quiet sought out an acquaintance named Hoch, who lived not far from Tan's house. Hoch, a man in his 60s, saw Quiet entering his yard and smiled. "Well, if it isn't Quiet, did you come to visit Tan's grave?" "Yes, uncle, I came to visit him this time, but it's too late. I didn't get to see him one last time. I want to build a proper tomb for Uncle Tan. Could you help me find some workers? I'll pay them fully." "Don't worry about that, son. I'll call someone to build his tomb. How long will you be staying here?" "I'll stay until the tomb is finished, then I'll leave. Then stay at my place. My wife and children are all in the city right now. I'm all alone and quite lonely. It would be great to have you stay with me, so you'll stay at my house, okay? Quit nodded, a little hesitant. But I don't want to trouble you, uncle. Don't be so polite. You and I are not strangers. Feel free to treat my house as your own. Don't be reserved. That day, Mr. Hoach butchered a chicken and made a feast for Quit. They drank wine until 9 p.m. when 2 people came in from outside. Seeing them, Mr. Hoach gestured for them to sit down. Are you two here for work? One of them approached and asked. Did you call us because you needed something, uncle? I want to hire you two to build Tan's tomb. You don't need to worry about money. Quit here will pay you fully. After the meal, Mr. Hoach led the 2 workers to Tan's grave. Mr. Hoach pointed to the grave and said, This is my brother's grave. Tomorrow, please ask for more people to help. If you need anything, just tell me. I'll give you the money immediately. Money is not an issue. The important thing is to build a beautiful tomb. We understand, uncle. Don't worry. We'll excuse ourselves now. We'll come early tomorrow morning. The next morning, the workers came to Mr. Hoach's house and began building Tan's tomb. After more than a week, Tan's tomb was completed, beautifully constructed. Quit promptly paid the workers. Mr. Hoach then asked Quit, What are you going to do about Tan's house now? How about, since you have the workers here, you have them repair it, then you can come back and live here? I was actually thinking of doing that. This time, I came back to rebuild Tan's tomb properly. So it makes sense to repair the house, so I have a place to stay whenever I come to visit his grave, right? Exactly. It's much better to have a place here than to wander around without one. Quit hired the workers to rebuild the house. After the house was completed, Quit bid farewell to Mr. Hoach to return home to his mother, who had called to say her illness had recurred. Knowing his mother was ill, Quit immediately took a bus home. When he arrived, his mother was lying sick in bed. During her illness, Quit cared for his mother very attentively, staying by her side day and night, never leaving. Not long after, Quit's mother passed away. Quit stayed home to arrange her funeral. After the burial was complete and the grave was peaceful and beautiful, he sold the house. With the money from selling the house, Quit settled down in Tan's house in Hoa Binh. He married a local girl, and they lived there together until this very day.